In recent months, we've seen a dramatic shift in the rental market, with tenants facing unprecedented challenges. But what does this mean for investors, landlords, and the market as a whole? In this video, we're going to explore the cascading effects of a rental market collapse, from the immediate impact it's going to have on landlords receiving cash flow to the long-term effects of house prices. So whether you're a new or seasoned investor, understanding these dynamics is going to be crucial to navigating this really weird economy we're in. And remember, if you're looking for more tips and strategies on how to build wealth in real estate, make sure you absolutely smash that subscribe button so you get all of my daily videos. With that being said, let's get into it. So first things first, the economic recession is likely coming. Now, if you're in the USA, you're probably saying, what recession? What's going on? The GDP numbers and the jobs numbers and the consumer numbers are all looking pretty good in the US, or at least they're making it look that way. If you're on Main Street and you're talking to actual people saying, hey, how are you feeling? Were you better off a couple years ago, or are you ahead? The vast majority of people are going to say, dude, eggs are crazy expensive, gas is expensive, food is expensive, clothes is expensive. I'm way worse off now than I was 2 or 3 years ago. But the numbers right now out of the US are looking pretty good, and that's the way they're maybe making it look. We'll see. But nonetheless, we know what is coming. The US can prop up their GDP, make their reports look as good as they want, but eventually the Main Street sentiment of this is getting pretty hard is going to show up in the data. And Jerome Powell has already signaled this many times that he's expecting an economic slowdown. So what does that mean? It means job losses, among other things, are coming. I mean, we've already seen Google lay off 12,000 employees recently, and as of 2024, from January 1st to now, 50,000 employees have been laid off among 200 top tech companies. Now, that's a lot of numbers I just said, but basically it means job losses are just starting. And that is because of the high interest rates, and businesses are constraining and they're getting rid of the fat. Where can I cut? Where can I save some money because we're going into a hard time? Oh yeah, these low levels employees, we'll get rid of them. We'll get rid of these employees. We'll outsource this to the Philippines for cheaper, blah, 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 blah. That's what's happening, and it's just getting started. And tech is always a leading indicator for what's to come on Main Street in manufacturing and in the construction industry. We're going to see that show up in the data real soon. Now, in other G7 countries like Canada, the UK, Australia, Germany, these countries are already pretty much in full-fledged recession. Now, other than Australia being the first to admit it, it's pretty clear if you're following the economics in Canada, for example, which is where I'm from. Even though I no longer invest in Canada, I invest only in the US now. But their economy is not doing good at all. So maybe Canada is about 6 to 8 months ahead of the US of what's predicted to happen in the US. So now that we know that an economic recession is likely coming, which is going to be important for the end of this video, the second thing that's happening is tenants are getting much smarter. With the internet being as crazy it is, and social media and TikTok and Facebook groups, we're seeing more tenant groups form, educating tenants on what they can get away with depending on what state or country they live in. And you're seeing things like rent strikes or rental parties become more and more popular, in the sense of not paying their landlords because they know, for example, in the state of New York, that they can get away with it for 6 months, 8 months, maybe even a year before they're evicted. Just like other states like California, or in my country of Canada, Ontario or BC, these are pretty much just like New York and California. You can do whatever you want. The tenant gets away with everything. They cannot pay rent for months and months. They can smash the property. And when it comes time to finally get evicted a year later, they get off scot-free. There's nothing on their credit rating. There's nothing tied to their ledger or to their system of any kind. They can just do it again and again and again to the next landlord. And this is how tenants are getting smarter at manipulating landlords and getting away with free rent. Now, what this is going to lead to is small landlords going bankrupt. Now, there's many cases of this popping up. One of the most popular ones was a landlord in Guelph, Ontario, Canada, where a tenant didn't pay rent for the 6 to 8 months, something crazy. And that tenant actually declared bankruptcy. So technically, their arrears were wiped clean. So when the landlord said, hey, this dude still owes me 6 or 8 months of rent, I'm going to file an eviction, the landlord-tenant board in Ontario said, well, technically on paper, he has no arrears. All of that debt was wiped clean. So you have to start the whole process over again, which may take 8 months to another year. And he said, yo, I can't afford that. I haven't gotten any income for the past 6 months. If I don't get paid in the next couple months, I'm going bankrupt, and we're both losing the house. And the Ontario Landlord Tenant Board went, what do you want me to do about that? What do you want me to do about that? There's a ton you can do about that. Now, I rant about that in all of my other videos, but what's going to happen, and already is that landlords, real estate investors are investing less into states like New York, California, Ontario, for example. So we're seeing a reduction of housing, of rental housing specifically, in these areas. Now, what happens when you have extremely high demand, like we're seeing now, and lower supply, less people buying rental properties? Prices go up, rental prices go up. So because of these crazy left-wing policies trying to help the tenant, what you're actually doing is a classic government move of an unintended consequence, and you're actually hurting the very people you're trying to help by making it hard to do business, hard to buy rental properties, so less people are buying, providing less homes, jacking the prices up more. These politicians are dumb. And that is because they don't understand business. They're not investors themselves. They're not business owners themselves. If they're lucky, they go to some shitty college to learn political science, and then they become a politician, but have zero experience of the real world, and now they're telling you and businesses how to do shit based on their experience, which is none. Which is why the country is an absolute mess. So with less housing being provided to tenants, rental prices going up, what do you think the government is going to do? Are they going to do the smart capitalist thing and make it easier for capital to come in, easier for investments to come in, and let the market do the market, which will provide value on its own? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to come in with what? More regulations, more stipulations, making it even harder for landlords and investors and businesses to do business in these areas. Of course, that's what they're going to do. So if you're a landlord in New York, California, or Ontario, or BC in Canada, expect more regulation to come. Expect for it to get harder to get mortgages, to get financing, to even buy properties. And when you do buy the property, you can't raise rents at all. You can't do this, you can't do that. More regulations. So if you're a Canadian watching this or an American and you're sick of investing in New York or California and you want more freedom with your properties, you want more ability to do what you want to do with your properties, you need to invest in more red states. States like Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia. In these states, the landlord runs supreme, as it should be. You own the property. If you want to raise the rent, go ahead. If you want to kick a tenant out, go ahead. If a tenant doesn't pay rent, 60 days max, and the sheriff is dragging them out. There's no appeals. There's no extra court dates. They're out. You need to invest in these kind of states, I think, totally. And this is coming from a guy who bought 150 properties, all in Canada, all in Ontario, and I dealt with the system. I played the games. I had a few tenants try and play me until I realized, oh, I don't have to invest where I live. I don't have to invest in Ontario. I can go down to Florida and Texas and Tennessee. That's what you got to be doing, especially if you're a Canadian. But Americans alike, you got to be investing in states where they're treating you fairly and properly. Anyway, that's the video. If you liked it, if you learned anything, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button for more daily videos.